6:45. This is a Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Lavani Vijayathunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. The World Bank approves $150 million to strengthen the financial sector of Sri Lanka. Youth representation for the local government institutions has been made mandatory. The International Cricket Council Board has suspended Sri Lanka Cricket's membership. The postal workers end 48-hour island-wide token strike. 2023 GC Ordinary Level Examination results to be released in 2 weeks. In news overseas, Biden and Xi Jinping meet in California. And in sports news, South Africa beat Afghanistan with Rassie van der Dusen shining in the chase. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. The World Bank's Board of Executive Directors approved a $150 million in financing for Sri Lanka to strengthen the resilience of the financial sector. World Bank Country Director for the Maldives, Nepal and Sri Lanka, Faris Haddad-Zervo, said that Sri Lanka's economic crisis highlights the need for strong safety nets to support the financial sector. A stable and a reliable banking sector is essential for the economy, business and individuals, small businesses and poor households. He added that strengthening the deposit insurance scheme will help to protect the savings of smaller depositors, including women and people living in the rural areas. It will also sustain the confidence in Sri Lanka's financial system, a critical part of building the country back better, Haddad-Zervo added. The Financial Sector Safety Net project is designed to boost the financial and institutional capacity of Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme, which is managed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The financing will help to boost the reserves of the Sri Lankan Deposit Insurance Scheme, which could be used towards paying out the insured depositors of the banks and licensed finance companies. In parallel, the project will support institutional strengthening of the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme in line with the international good practices for effective deposit insurance schemes. The Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme was established in the year 2010 and has conducted several payouts for failed licensed finance companies in the recent years. Currently, the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme guarantees the deposits of households and enterprises up to 1.1 million Sri Lankan rupees, which covers more than 90% of the deposit accounts in Sri Lanka. State Minister Janaka Wakkumbura says that the youth representation for the local government institutions is mandatory. He said that accordingly, the representation of the youth aged between 18 to 35 should be at least 25%. He said that the aim of this initiative is to motivate young generation to enter into politics. The Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka will conduct an island-wide program to enable the public to confirm the registration of their mobile SIM cards with the relevant telecommunication company. Issuing a statement, the government said the first phase of the program will be conducted in the Kandy district from the 13th of November to the 18th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The public has been requested to verify their mobile SIM card and registered companies by dialing #3 #132# and obtaining all the relevant details. The government warned that those who fail to update their mobile SIM card registrations will have to take the responsibility in the event their mobile numbers are used for criminal activities. The International Cricket Council Board has suspended Sri Lanka Cricket's membership of the ICC with immediate effect. The ICC said in a statement that the ICC board met yesterday and determined that Sri Lanka Cricket is in a serious breach of its obligations as a member, in particular the requirement to manage its affairs autonomously and ensure that there is no government interference in the governance, regulation and or the administration of cricket in Sri Lanka. The statement added that the conditions of the suspensions will be decided by the ICC board in due course. The development comes as Minister of Sports suspended the membership of the SLC and appointed an interim committee. The Court of Appeal then issued a stay order and effectively reinstated the SLC office bearers. The Parliament then passed a motion calling for the removal of the current office bearers of SLC following a one-day debate. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
And we continue with more local news. The United Postal Trade Union Front said that the 48-hour token strike that the postal workers had commenced since the 8th of November has ended. They said that the postal workers went on a strike on the 8th of November and ended their strike on the 9th of November at midnight. The United Postal Trade Union Front stated that the duties will be carried out as usual from yesterday. Chintaka Bandara, the co-convener of the United Postal Trade Union Front, said that the necessary measures have been taken to distribute nearly 1 million postal items that have piled up due to the strike action. Minister of Education Susi Premajayantha revealed that the results of the 2023 GC Ordinary Level Examinations are slated to be announced later this month. Accordingly, the results of the 2023 Ordinary Level Examinations will be released within the next 2 weeks. Minister Premajayantha revealed this while speaking to the media in Colombo yesterday. President Ranil Wickremesinghe called for a comprehensive program to revive the country's spice industry, which was once a major source of income. Speaking at the 19th annual general meeting of the Spice Council, he urged them to prepare a proper plan for the revival of the industry and said that the government is ready to provide the necessary support. The President stressed the importance of bringing the private sector together to implement the program promptly. He also presented awards to Professor Jayasri Lankage and Sarada De Silva for their contribution to the promotion of the cinnamon industry in Sri Lanka. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The World Bank approves $150 million to strengthen the financial sector of Sri Lanka. Youth representation for the local government institutions has been made mandatory. The International Cricket Council Board has suspended Sri Lanka's cricket's membership. The postal workers end 48-hour island-wide token strike. 2023 Ordinary Level Examination results to be released in 2 weeks. And that was the local news.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
The main news story for this morning: over 11,750 acres of paddy fields, which were about to be harvested in the last Yala season, have been destroyed by floods caused by heavy rains that have been experiencing for almost 1.5 months. Agriculture and Plantation Industry Minister Maina Amaravira had informed the Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board to gather information about the damaged fields due to the long and severe drought that prevailed last Yala season. Accordingly, 64,088 acres of paddy fields have been damaged due to the drought and 11,460 farmers have been affected due to the crop damage due to rain. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Veda.
Moving on to Watchlight this morning, minimum standards and parameters have been introduced for bus terminals to be constructed in the future in Sri Lanka. These standards and parameters were discussed by the Sectoral Oversight Committee on Energy and Transport, which met recently and approved them. The committee met at the Parliament recently under the chairmanship of Minister Nalaka Bandara Kottegoda. It was also decided to refer these standards to a committee consisting of officials from all related institutions to make a final decision about the construction of the relevant bus stations using these standards more effectively. That came to you in Watchlight, and now let's move on to the headlines of the world news. Biden and Xi Jinping to meet in California. U.S. approves the first shot against mosquito-borne chikungunya virus vaccine. First ever images prove lost agenda not extinct. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping are to meet next week in San Francisco Bay Area, two senior administration officials said. The encounter on the 15th of November will only be their second face-to-face meeting during President Biden's presidency. It will be wide-ranging, U.S. officials said, with the Israel-Hamas war, Taiwan, war in Ukraine, and election interference to be discussed. Relations between the two countries deteriorated earlier this year. The U.S. accused China of sending a spy balloon across its airspace. An American warplane shot it down off the coast of South Carolina. There was also a visit to Taiwan last year by then-Speaker Nancy Pelosi, which led China to break off communications between the two nations' militaries. Mr. Biden is determined to restore those channels, U.S. officials said, but China appeared reluctant to do so. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the world's first vaccine for chikungunya, which is seen as an emerging global health threat. The mosquito-borne disease causes fever and joint pains and can be fatal to newborns. The FDA's approval is expected to speed up the vaccine's global rollout. This year, about 440,000 chikungunya cases, including 350 deaths, have been reported as of September. There is currently no specific drug to treat chikungunya. South America and South Asia have been the most number of cases this year. The vaccine named Itsuki has been approved for those aged 18 above and are at a high risk of contracting the disease, FDA said on Friday. It was developed by Europe's Valneva and it will be administered in a single shot. Scientists have filmed an ancient egg-laying mammal named after Sir David Attenborough for the first time, proving it isn't extinct as was feared. An expedition to Indonesia led by Oxford University researchers recorded 4 3-second clips of Attenborough's long beak and cheetah, spiky, furry with a long beak, and they have been called living fossils. They are thought to have emerged about 200 million years ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Until now, the only evidence that this particular species, Zalus attenborough, existed was a decade-old museum specimen of a dead animal. And that was the world news.
Development news.
State Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs Rohana Dissanayake has disclosed the government's ambitions to plan to inaugurate a new sports university in the year 2024. During a press conference at the Presidential Media Center under the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country, State Minister Dissanayake emphasized the government's commitment to addressing challenges within sports federations. To facilitate this, the Parliamentary Consultative Committee on Sports has summoned all sports bodies to engage in a proactive discussion and find resolutions. State Minister Dissanayake highlighted the ongoing efforts to streamline the operations of the country's 72 sports federations. That was the development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Rassie van der Dusen hit an unbeaten 76 to take South Africa to a tense 5-wicket win over Afghanistan in their final World Cup group game. Gerard Coetzee took 4 for 44 as the Proteas bowled Afghanistan out for 244 after Azmatullah Omarzi made an unbeaten 97 to rescue the innings from 116 for the loss of 6 wickets. South Africa made hard work of the chase but held their nerve to get over the line in the 48th over. Defeat officially ended Afghanistan's chances of making to the top 4. Jonathan Trott's side need to win by a highly improbable 438 runs to overhaul New Zealand on the net run rate and stay in contention to reach the knockout stages, but after opting to bat first, lost wickets in clusters. After a steady start, they lost 3 wickets for 4 runs to slip from 41 for 0 to 45 for the loss of 3 wickets, and then in another mini collapse saw them lose 3 wickets in 4 overs midway through the innings. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekak thiyana youth ekata life ekේ change ekata niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, convocation and the presentation of certificates of the IDM Nation campus will be held today. The event will be held at the BMICH in Colombo at 9:30 p.m. Sarah Williams, the head of the School of Business and Law of Buckinghamshire New University of the United Kingdom will grace the occasion as the chief guest. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go එකක් තියන youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගින හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, the average weighted prime lending rate at licensed commercial banks has reduced by further 57 basis points to 13.31% this week. According to the data from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the AWPR at commercial banks was 13.88% last week, while it was high at 28.54% a year ago. The considerable reduction comes after the Monetary Board reduced the policy interest rates during the 2 consecutive months earlier this year and another reduction last month. According to experts, the bank interest rates will come down further in the next few months, even if the central bank decides not to reduce the policy interest rates further. That was the economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the western, central, Sabaragamuwa and southern, as well as the northwestern Nuwa provinces after 2 p.m. Fairly heavy showers, about 50 millimeters, are likely at some places in the Sabaragamuwa and Nuwa province and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Gaul and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the eastern province and in the Polonnaruwa district from night. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, North Central and Nuwa provinces during the morning hours. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The World Bank approves a $150 million grant to strengthen financial sector of Sri Lanka. Youth representation for the local government institutions has been made mandatory. The International Cricket Council Board has suspended Sri Lanka's cricket's membership. The postal workers end 48-hour island-wide token strike. 2023 GC ordinary level examination results to be released in 2 weeks. In news overseas, Biden and Xi Jinping to meet in California. And in sports news, South Africa beat Afghanistan with Rassie van der Dusen shining in the chase. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. Now it's back to your regular Saturday morning host of my good friends on the other side of the glass panel to brighten up your day.